Well, I think I'm going to just get week 13 squared away here. I took the day off from work, and after running errands and everything, I've got some time, so I think I'm just going to go through and run week 13 and get that up. I thought I'd start out the video today going over league leaders after week 12. So looking at your passing yards leader after week 12, at the end of week 12, Roman Gabriel is leading there. Jim Hart leads with most touchdowns. Roman Gabriel and Norm Snead are tied for most interceptions. And quarterback rating, again, we see Johnny Unitas is shot up and is leading with a 92.79 rating. Mike Livingston and Earl Morrall, not enough starts, so that's a little skewed. So I'm just going with people that have essentially had the bulk of the starts for their teams here. I wish there was a way I could filter on that, but it's just kind of a basic setup here. Looking at rushing, Ron Johnson has gone ahead of Ed Podolak in rushing yards with 1,257 yards. Your touchdown rushing leader is going to be Ron Johnson of the Giants. Looking at receiving, Jack Snow leading in receiving yards, followed by Eddie Hinton of the Baltimore Colts. Eddie Hinton is leading with MacArthur Lane on 8 receiving touchdowns. Looking at defense, your tackle leader is Dick Butkus with Tommy Novus of the Falcons, just 3 tackles behind him. Merlin Olsen and Willie Holman of the Bears are leading with 26 tackles for loss for the season. Your sack leader by a wide margin is Fred Dreyer, having a monster season with sacks. Your interception leader is Earlie Thomas of the Jets. And a bunch of guys with a touchdown here, defensive touchdowns. All right, let's look at the schedule. So, let's sim the games first and get that set up. So we have Pittsburgh traveling to Atlanta. Good weather down in Atlanta for football. Minnesota travels to Harvard Stadium to take on Boston. That is, be prepared, Boston fans. That one on paper is going to look like a really ugly game. We have Baltimore traveling to Buffalo. That'll be a snow game, 27 degrees, windy and snowy. Green Bay heads to Wrigley Field to take on the Bears. Dallas, coming off a really good win last week, heads to Cleveland to take on the Browns. San Diego will take on Denver in Mile High. The Bengals head to Houston to play the Oilers in the Astrodome. Detroit will head into Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Jets will be playing down in Miami. San Francisco heads to New Orleans. That's a rainy game in Tulane. Kansas City and Oakland will battle in Oakland. The Giants will head to St. Louis to play the Cardinals. And what we have here is, boy, the Giants are on a roll, five-game winning streak. And then Philly heads to Washington, Eagles to play the Redskins in RFK. That's a wet game as well. So we have the games simmed and ready to go for highlights. So let's jump into the highlights, starting with Pittsburgh at Atlanta. 11:21 in the first, and Atlanta has the ball. Bob Berry under center for Atlanta. Pitches to Cannonball Butler. He is hit in the backfield and fumbles the ball. Pittsburgh recovers at the 23. This will set Pittsburgh up for a score. They can't advance, and Gene Mingo comes in, and Mingo makes the field goal. That'll put Pittsburgh up 3-0. Now we're in the second. Mingo trying a long field goal. Let's see if he can make it. And he doesn't. The kicking woes for the Pittsburgh Steelers continue. Now we're 3 minutes into the third quarter. Falcons have the ball. Barry drops back and throws an interception to Chuck Beatty. He returns it to the Atlanta 23. Bradshaw, third quarter, looking, and overthrows Preston Pearson. That Al Levan, he had good coverage on that. Now we're in the fourth. Barry hits Flatley, and Flatley in the end zone. Paul Flatley, 12-yard catch and run from Bob Berry. And that's going to put the Falcons up 7-3 here. We're now late in the fourth. Terry Bradshaw looking. He hits Smith. Smith is out of bounds. 21-yard reception there. And with 1 second left, Pittsburgh out of timeouts. Atlanta takes the knee, and we have a 7-3 victory for Atlanta. So Atlanta kind of stuns the Pittsburgh Steelers in a low-scoring game down in Atlanta Stadium. John Zook is your MVP, 7 tackles and 2 sacks. Looking at the final game stats, Atlanta, well, kind of evenly matched. It was a tight game. Pittsburgh couldn't generate anything in the air, and looks like the Atlanta defense got after Terry Bradshaw quite a bit. Let's look at the Pittsburgh stats. Terry Bradshaw, not a good day for him. 7-21. Whopping 69 yards, no TDs, no interceptions, and he was harassed all day by that Falcon defense. 5 sacks for 42 yards. Pittsburgh rushing. Johnny Fuqua leads with 66 yards in the game. Looking at Pittsburgh on the receiving end here. 37 yards to Dave Smith. That's all you're going to get. Rest of the Pittsburgh receivers, really nothing there. Bradshaw just didn't have time to do much of anything by appearances. Total offense by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not much to show there. Steeler defense, busy day for them. Chuck Allen, the veteran middle linebacker. Jerry Hildebrand, the left linebacker. Both of them 11 tackles. Joe Green, he gets a sack today. Chuck Beatty, he got that interception off Bob Berry. Gene Mingo, a good day for him. He had 2 chances and hit 1. Bobby Walden, 8 punts. 4 of those inside the 20 and 3 were fair caught. Good day for Bobby Walden, who was a real steady and reliable punter in the 70s. Looking at kick returns, Mel Blount and Staggers, both of them got returns. The longest return was 27 yards by Mel Blount. Punt returns today in a losing effort against the Atlanta Falcons. Looking at Atlanta, Bob Berry, 13 of 20, 104 yards, touchdown and an interception. Cannonball Butler, he got a 9-yard halfback pass he completed. Cannonball Butler and Harmon Wages, their rushing numbers weren't going to get much going on the ground against the Steeler defense. Through the air, Atlanta, Jim Mitchell is your leader with 52 yards. Paul Flatley had the touchdown. And total offense for the Falcons in their narrow win over the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. Looking at Atlanta's defense, Tommy Nobis, 10 tackles, 1 for loss. John Zook, 7 tackles, 5 for loss. 2 of those were sacks. Glenn Condren, haven't called his name this season, he had 2 sacks. Greg Lenz, he had a sack. Kenny Vineyard, he just had an extra point. Billy Lothridge, 9 punts today. Looking at Atlanta kick returners and Atlanta punt returners. I hope you don't hear the lawnmower going there. Okay. Well, Atlanta, be it by 4 points or 24 points, they still, any way you look at it, they a win is a win. And they get a 7-3 win over Pittsburgh. Okay, well, our next game is in Harvard Stadium, Minnesota, at Boston. And this looks like a very lopsided game. So we will see what we have. I think this is a stretch to see if the Patriots can beat the a strong Minnesota team. But hey, you know, you don't know until the game is played. So let's get to the highlights. Well, 3:13 in the first, and Fred Cox is lining up a field goal and gets Minnesota on the board 3-0. We're at 8:37 in the second now, and Gino Cappelletti, he kicks one through as well. 17-yard attempt is good, and we are tied at 3. Still in the second quarter, Gary Quazzo back to pass, and he is picked off by Clarence Scott. Well, that will set up the Patriots. Will they get some points here? Joe Cap, he has a man in motion. He's back to pass, and he misses Bake Turner. So looks like he will turn that over on downs. Still in the second, Quazzo back to pass, looking. Oh, and he's got Bob Grimm in the end zone. Touchdown, Minnesota. And the landscaper's back. I hope you can't hear that. But Dave Osborne, he will run that one in here in the third quarter to extend Minnesota's lead. 17-3 now. Late in the third, Quazzo back to pass, and he is picked off by Jim Chayuski of the Patriots, and it sets the Patriots up for some points, hopefully. Here we go. Joe Cap, he hits Ron Sellers, and Sellers beats the Vikings into the end zone. And that will make it a 17-10 game. We're now mid-fourth. Quazzo hits Gene Washington, and Gene Washington is in. 9:16 in the fourth, and Joe Cap under center. He hands it off to Jim Nantz. He turns the corner, is hit after a very short gain. Minnesota gets the ball at the 21. 6:33 in the fourth. Fred Cox. Short field goal is good. Minnesota 27, Boston 10. Minute 47 in the fourth. Joe Cap against his former team, and he hits Big Turner. Big Turner is off to the races. They may catch him before he gets there, and they catch him and he fumbles the ball. Minnesota recovers at the 17. What a heartbreaking turn of events for Boston. And Minnesota wins 27-10 in Harvard Stadium. Joe Cap facing his former team for the first time, and he comes out on the losing end. As you remember, in 1969, Joe Cap was the quarterback of the Vikings and took the Vikings to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, where they lost. And after the season, Cap ended up with the Patriots, and in real life suffered through a miserable season, which would turn out to be his last season in the NFL. He took quite a beating as one of the toughest quarterbacks to ever play the game. Even that was too much for Joe Cap. Gary Quazzo is your MVP today. He was 20 of 32, 311 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dominating game for Minnesota. Looking at Minnesota's individual player numbers, Quazzo 20 of 32, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Osborne with a 16-yard halfback pass that he completed. Looking at the rushing numbers, Dave Osborne again leading in rushing, this time with 42 yards. He did get a touchdown on the ground. Receiving, Gene Washington, 90 yards and a touchdown. John Henderson, 85 yards. Bob Grimm, 61 yards and the other touchdown. Total offense for the Minnesota Vikings in their dominating win over the rather hapless Boston Patriots of 1970. On defense, the Purple People Eaters, they feasted on their former teammate. Roy Winston led the way with 8 tackles and a sack. Alan Page and Jim Marshall both got sacks. Carl Eller, he teed off on Joe Cap for 2 sacks for a total of 5. Marshall and Sharachman both recovered fumbles. Fred Cox, another steady day from the always reliable Vikings kicker. Tom McNeil, longest was 53 yards today. Not much work on kick returns for Jones and West. Charlie West got 3 punt returns. Longest was 25 yards. In a very dominating win. Now let's look at the Patriots. Joe Cap, 18 of 32, 261, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, but he was bludgeoned by the Minnesota defense today in a losing effort. Nothing on the ground for Boston today. Absolutely no running game. Receiving, Ron Sellers, 110 yards and a touchdown. Big Turner got 99 yards. Total offense, well, it was mostly through the air because the run game could not make any headway against that Minnesota front four. The Boston defense, long day for them. Chayuski, 11 tackles. He did get that interception. Clarence Scott, he also intercepted a Quazzo pass. But, yeah, they didn't get much pressure on, really at all, on Gary Quazzo. Gino Cappelletti hit everything that he was asked to hit. Janik, busy day, 9 punts. Garrett and Lawson doing kick return duties for Boston in their loss to the Vikings. And Sid Blanks and Carl Garrett, their punt return numbers for today. So unexpected, expectedly that the Vikings got a win against the Patriots. I got a feeling Joe Kapp wishes he was back in Minnesota after that game. Looking at our schedule now, we have Baltimore, the 9-3 Baltimore Colts going in against the 5-6-1 Buffalo Bills in War Memorial Stadium. It's going to be a snowy, cold day, windy in the rock pile. The Bills fans are going to be loud, and it is going to be a heck of a game, I got a feeling, here in the snow. 13:39 in the first, and Dennis Shaw's back to pass. And Rick Volk, playing center field there, he just catches that pass and runs it back to the Buffalo 24. That should set up Unitas and the Colts. John Unitas back to pass, and he's got his old favorite target, Jimmy Orr, for 12 yards. That puts Baltimore up 7-0. Guthrie, with 4 seconds left in the first quarter, he will get a field goal for Buffalo. 7-3 is your score at the end of the first. We're now in the second. Unitas looking downfield. He's got Roy Jefferson, and Roy Jefferson gets a touchdown. The Buffalo defensive back slipped and fell. Easy touchdown for Roy Jefferson. 14-3 is your score in the second quarter. Hands off the ball, Shaw hands off to O.J. Simpson, and Simpson fumbles the ball. Baltimore recovers at the 39. Jim O'Brien at the end of the first half, he's going to try for a field goal. And the swirling winds blow that one off target, wide left for Jim O'Brien. We're in the third, 14-3. Paul McGuire punts the ball to Ron Garden, and Ron Garden, he gets some blocks, and he's got one man to beat. And nope, didn't beat him. He beat him clean. Ron Garden, touchdown, 80-yard touchdown returned by Ron Garden. 21-3 is your score here. Start of the fourth quarter. Unitas is back again. He's got Jefferson. Jefferson gets in the end zone. And Baltimore is pouring it on in the snow. 28-3, 10-16 in the fourth. Shaw's picked off by Ten Hendricks. He reaches up with those long arms and snags that pass and is tackled at the Baltimore 1. We're now with 2 minutes left in the game, and Baltimore fumbles the ball to Buffalo, but not enough time on the clock to really climb back in this game for the Bills. Shaw hits Haven Moses, and Haven Moses gets behind the Baltimore defense, and he is in the end zone. 44-yard connection between Shaw and Moses. And that will be your score here, it looks like. 28-10 Colts over the Buffalo Bills in the snow and wind in War Memorial Stadium. Johnny Unitas, your MVP of the game. 183 yards and 3 touchdowns for the veteran. Here's your game stats for the game. And Johnny Unitas' numbers for today and the victory over the Buffalo Bills: 14-25, 183 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Great day for Johnny Unitas. Jerry Hill had a big day, 83 yards on the ground. Receiving numbers: Roy Jefferson, 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jimmy Orr caught 2 passes. One of those was a touchdown. And the total offense numbers for Baltimore in their win over Buffalo in Buffalo. Baltimore defense: Mike Curtis, 8 tackles. Rick Volk, interception. Roy Hilton, he got a sack on Dennis Shaw. And of course, Ted Hendricks, with that big wingspan that he had, just reached up and snagged that pass, intercepting Dennis Shaw there as Buffalo looked like they were closing in on a score. Jim Duncan, he had the other he had a fumble recovery. Jim O'Brien, he missed a field goal but hit all of his extra points, and it was a difficult game. A lot of gusting winds in there that were swirling around in War Memorial Stadium. David Lee, 5 punts today. 49 yards was the longest punt. And kick returns: Ron Garden, 26 yards was his only return today. But we know when it came to punt returns, Ron Garden did great. An 80-yard touchdown return by Ron Garden, former Arizona Wildcat. Now let's look at Buffalo's numbers. Dennis Shaw, 15-33, 216, touchdown, 2 interceptions. Not his best day this season. O.J. Simpson, he ran for 68 yards. Looking at Buffalo's receiving, Marlon Briscoe and Haven Moses were busy today. 116 yards for Marlon the Magician and 94 yards for Haven Moses and a touchdown. Buffalo's total offense in a losing effort against the Baltimore Colts. On defense, Edgar Chandler, 11 tackles. Jim Dunaway, he got the single sack on Johnny Unitas. Chandler also recovered a Baltimore fumble. Grant Guthrie kicking the ball was perfect in his opportunities in the snow and wind. Paul McGuire, not a bad day, but he did have that punt that was run back by Ron Garden for 80 yards. Ike Hill and Glenn Alexander's kick return numbers for today's game against Baltimore. 2 fair catches for Tommy Farr, returning punts. So the Colts leave War Memorial Stadium the victors in a 28-10 victory over the Buffalo Bills. Now we move on to an NFC Central matchup, a classic NFL battle between the Packers and the Bears. This time it's in Wrigley Field. No snow. It is windy in Wrigley, and it is 40 degrees. All right, looking here in at 11:56 in the first, Concannon He's picked off by Kenny Ellis, and Kenny Ellis gets beyond Concannon, who misses the tackle, and Ken Ellis runs it in for the first score of the game. Green Bay up 7-0. Percival's kick is wide left. The 30-yard attempt is no good. Green Bay still ahead 7-0. We're in the second quarter. Concannon driving the Bears downfield. He pitches out to Cecil Turner. And Cecil Turner, he did not convert that fourth down. We're now in the second. Concannon, and he hits Farmer in the end zone, 8-yard touchdown pass, and that will tie the game at 7 here in the third quarter. Bart Starr pitches Donnie Anderson. Donnie Anderson, halfback pass, and that's going to go for a touchdown. Little bit of razzle-dazzle from the Packers today. John Hilton gets a 49-yard touchdown pass from halfback Donnie Anderson. We're in the fourth, and Donnie Anderson is crushed in the backfield on that screen pass by Dick Butkus. Absolutely destroyed the Palomino. Minute 37 in the fourth, and Concannon hits Gordon, and Gordon is in the end zone. Touchdown, Chicago. Chicago takes a 14-13 lead. Last gasp by the Packers, and they're picked off. Bart Starr is picked off by Phil Clark. And this will be a tough loss for Green Bay. Well, Chicago, they get a win at home and come back to win. They overcome the interception, run back for a touchdown, and win the game 14-13. Concannon is your MVP, 172 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this, I think, will vault Chicago over Green Bay and sink Green Bay to the bottom of the NFC Central. That's wasn't too long ago where the Packers were the kings of the NFL, and now they've sunk to the bottom of their own division. And a strong game for Chicago against their division rival, Green Bay. Looking at Green Bay's numbers, Bart Starr, 12-25, only 93 yards, interception, and just a horrible day for the great Bart Starr here at the tail end of his career. Donnie Anderson, he actually tried 2 halfback passes, so a little bit more razzle-dazzle than we usually expect out of the Packers, but one of those was a touchdown pass. That was a 49-yarder. Donnie Anderson got 42 yards on the ground, as you guys probably just remember in the highlights. When we get to the receiving numbers, here's Donnie Anderson, and that was that horrible. He just absolutely got lit up by Dick Butkus on that swing pass. John Hilton, 73 yards and a touchdown for the Packers. Total offense for the Packers today in a losing effort and a disappointing effort. Looking at their defensive numbers, Ray Nitschke, the veteran middle linebacker, 14 tackles, 2 for loss. He came to play. Lionel Aldridge, the other veteran, he as well. He got a sack. Ken Ellis, he had that interception for a touchdown. Clarence Williams, he also got a sack. David Livingston missed one of his 2 extra point attempts. And Donnie Anderson, not a bad day punting. He was busy punting 8 punts. Longest was 46. He parked 3 inside the 20, had 2 touchbacks and 2 fair catches. Larry Krause and Ken Ellis doing kick return. Krause had a 37-yard kick return, was the longest of the day for the Packers. And Willie Wood, a 5-yard return was the longest the Packers could get on punt returns. Looking at Chicago, your MVP, Jack Concannon, 17-31, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns. Good day for the Bears quarterback. On the ground, the Bears seem to be moving the ball. 64 yards for Ronnie Bull, 66 yards for Donnie Shy. The aerial attack for Chicago with their talented receivers. When they get the ball to them, good things happen. And today was one of those days. 52 yards for George Farmer and a touchdown. Dick Gordon, 63 yards and a touchdown. Bob Wallace, the tight end, 49 yards. Here's total offense of Chicago in their win against the Packers. Dick Butkus is your tackle leader, and he had a whale of a tackle on Donnie Anderson. He put a massive lick on him to drop him for a loss. Sacked by Willie Holloman. Interception by Phil Clark. Matt Percival, he missed a field goal but did hit all of his extra points. Bobby Joe Green, 6 punts, 5 of them inside the 20. Ron Smith and Cecil Turner, only 1 return for Smith on kicks, 23-yarder was it. And punt returns, not much there for Chicago. Well, the Bears leapfrogged the Packers for 3rd place in the 4-team NFC Central with a 14-13 win over the Packers. All right, the next game on the schedule, Dallas. They head out of the Cotton Bowl and are in Municipal Stadium on the lake. Playing the Cleveland Browns. 2 disappointing teams in this replay. Let's go to the highlights. 9:23 in the first, and the Browns are going for a field goal, and they miss. 29-yard attempt, no good. With 2:57 in the first, Bill Nelson, he's back to pass, he's looking. And Cliff Harris intercepts in the end zone and for some reason decided to try to run it out. He's tackled at the 2. We're now in the second quarter. Craig Morton hands off to Calvin Hill. Calvin Hill is hit and fumbles the ball. That's Calvin Hill's biggest problem this season is fumbles. Cleveland recovers. We're in the second. Calvin Hill holds on to the ball and takes it into the end zone. Touchdown, Cowboys. Cowboys up 7-0 here in the third quarter until Bo Scott runs that in for the Browns, a 3-yard touchdown run for Bo Scott. And that'll tie the game at 7 here with 5:54 in the third. Morton finds Lance Rensel, and Rensel hauls that one in for an 18-yard touchdown catch. Extra point good. 14-7 Dallas. End of the third quarter. Nelson pitches to Bo Scott. Bo Scott is stopped. Loses yards on that one. Now we're in the fourth quarter. Nelson back to pass, looking downfield. And Leroy Jordan grabs that pass and takes it to the Cleveland 35. What can the Cowboys do with that? Well, they drive down. And Craig Morton sneaks through the line and gets a Cowboy touchdown. 21-7 with 1:49 in the game. Nelson looking, he evades the pressure and he hits Homer Jones, who gets out of bounds. Nelson was lucky he wasn't sacked there. And that is going to be your final score. The Cowboys are starting to kind of find their offense, but too late in the season. Cowboys 21-7, strong win, good effort by the Cowboys offense. They're on track, but it just took them way too long in the season to kind of find their groove offensively. Bob Lilly, big day for the original Cowboy, 11 tackles and 2 sacks. Domination by Dallas today. Now let's look at Dallas's numbers. Craig Morton, 10 of 20, 128 yards and a touchdown. Solid day for him. Dwayne Thomas, 82 yards on the ground. Calvin Hill, 64 yards and a touchdown, but he did fumble again and gave that fumble away to the Browns. Receiving, Lance Rensel, favorite target this season, 76 yards and a touchdown. Bob Hayes, 30 yards receiving. Total offense for the Dallas Cowboys in their strong win over the Cleveland Browns. And Doomsday showed up. Bob Lilly, 11 tackles and 2 sacks. George Andre, Jethro Pugh, Larry Cole. That defensive line was teeing off on the Browns quarterback today. Leroy Jordan snagged an interception, as did Cliff Harris, with the aggressive move by Cliff Harris to try to run that out of the end zone, and he got tackled literally at, I think, the 2-yard line. So not a smart play for the young defensive back. Mike Clark, everything was extra points for him today. Ron Whidbey, 6 punts, longest at 57 yards. He pinned 2 of those punts inside the 20. Margene Atkins, 25 yards on a kick return. Bob Hayes and Mel Renfro, their punt return numbers for the day in the Dallas victory at Cleveland. Now we look at Cleveland. Bill Nelson, rough day for him. Only 10 completions out of 26 attempts, 194 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he was hit almost all day. 5 recorded sacks for 34 yards. Leroy Kelly, 68 yards on the ground. Bo Scott, 40 yards and a touchdown. Receiving, Leroy Kelly out of the backfield, 71 yards. He led the way. Total offense for the Browns in their loss at home to the Dallas Cowboys. On defense, Cleveland was busy today. 9 tackles by Lindsey and Houston. No sacks. They got no pressure on Craig Morton. They did recover a fumble. No, it just they gave Morton had plenty of time to go through his reads, and just a rough day for the Cleveland defense. Concroft, his numbers today. His punting numbers, since he does the punting duties as well as the kicking duties for the Cleveland Browns. Homer Jones had a 35-yard kick return. And not much in the punt return department for Schoen and Morrison today in the loss to the Cowboys. Well, that'll wrap things up in Cleveland. The Cowboys are getting on track, but too little too late for them in this season. 21-7 victory over the Cleveland Browns. Our next game is San Diego traveling to Mile High. It'll be a chilly 37. They'll be playing the Denver Broncos, who are putting together a nice little win streak, 3 wins in a row for the Broncos. Let's see what happened in this game. And here we are, 7:49 in the first, and Bobby Howfield, he will kick that one through to give Denver an early lead, 3-0. 5:07 in the first quarter. John Hadel, he's got a man in motion. He's looking downfield. He's got Gary Garrison, and Garrison is off and running, and he fumbles the ball upon being tackled. That ball was punched out. Denver recovers. End of the first quarter. Hadel looking downfield, hits Jeff Queen, and Queen fumbles the ball. And Cunningham recovers for Denver and runs it back to the 37. We're in the second quarter. Howfield, another field goal, and he misses that one. That one goes wide right. Score is still 3-0 Denver. 7:26 in the second, and another Howfield field goal will make it 6-0 late in the second. Minute 4 in the second quarter, Liskey for Denver looks, and he massively overthrows his receiver, and Bob Babich is there to intercept it for San Diego. Very end of the first half, Liskey looking downfield, seeing if he can connect with somebody here as time expires, and nope, incomplete pass. Good coverage by San Diego. We're now in the third. Liskey, he's back. He lofts that ball for Embry, and Embry catches it, and he is in the end zone. Touchdown, Denver. John Embry, 28 yards from Pete Liskey. That'll make it 13-0. We're now in the fourth, and Floyd Little, who seems to be the man of the hour in every game for the Denver Broncos, he gets a touchdown. 8 minutes in the fourth, Hadel is picked off, and Hadel makes the tackle on Dave Washington, who brings it back to the San Diego 21. And it's 20-0 here late in the fourth, and Floyd Little will turn the corner and just get into the end zone. Another touchdown that'll run the score up to 27-0. And that will be your final score. The San Diego Chargers get shut out in Denver. And again, Floyd Little's your MVP, 159 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Floyd Little is just amazing for the Broncos. If it wasn't for him, who knows where this Broncos team would be. It seems to show up every game and have a great effort. And yep, that was quite a rout by the Broncos at home over the Chargers. John Hadel's number today in the embarrassing loss to the Broncos, 10 of 22, 119 yards and an interception. Not a good day for the veteran John Hadel. Nothing really happening on the ground for San Diego in the rushing department. Receiving, Gary Garrison, 93 yards, but he fumbled the ball, killing a good-looking drive by San Diego. And total offense for San Diego as they got blanked by the Denver Broncos. The San Diego defense, Bob Briggs, 12 tackles. Bob Babich, he got an interception and 11 tackles. Steve DeLong sacked Liskey. Otherwise, they took a beating today at the hands of the Broncos. Obviously, they didn't get a chance to try field goals or extra points. Partee busy today with 8 punts. Fletcher and Speedy Duncan. Fletcher had a 30-yard kick return. Punt returns, not much there. Again, Denver was just so dominant in this game. Speaking of Denver, Pete Liskey, good game for him. 12 of 19, 178 yards, touchdown and an interception. Floyd Little, big day, 159 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. From the receiving end of things here, 65 yards for Al Denson, 42 for Floyd Little coming out of the backfield. Wide receiver / punter Billy Van Heusen, 32 yards, got a 132-yard catch. And John Embry, he had a touchdown. Total offense for Denver in their victory over San Diego. Denver's Orange Crush defense blanked the San Diego Chargers today, so good game by this unit. Washington, Cunningham, and Smith led with 4 tackles. Rich Jackson, he got another sack, as did Pete Duranko. Dave Washington also intercepted Hadel. Then you have fumble recoveries by Cunningham and Charlie Greer. Bobby Halfield, he missed 1 field goal, otherwise was good today. Billy Van Heusen, when he wasn't catching a 30-yard pass, had a pretty light day punting, but parked all 3 of his punts inside the 20. Not much when it came to kick returns today for Denver, and not a whole lot on punt returns either. Well, that'll wrap things up in Denver. Denver comes out of this with a 27-0 blowout of the San Diego Chargers. Now we move off to the Astrodome and Cincinnati and Houston. 13-16, Houston back in their zone, and Charlie Johnson gets flattened by Mike Reed, 8-yard sack, and that'll give Cincinnati 2 points. Still in the first quarter, and Virgil Carter overthrows Chip Myers. Had a good-looking play there. Still in the first, and we're going to see Roy Jarella try a field goal, and he gets that one through. So, believe it or not, Houston takes a lead, 3-2. Still in the first, Virgil Carter is picked off by Kenny Houston, and Kenny Houston is going to take this one to the house. You're going to see a long interception return for a touchdown by Ken Houston of the Oilers. That is a big return. Now we're in the second quarter. Charlie Johnson under center for the Oilers. He's looking downfield. He avoids the pressure, but throws it right at Fletcher Smith, and Cincinnati intercepts at the 47. Score is 10-2. Horst Mollman is going to try a very long field goal, and that one goes wide right. Had good distance on it, but just off to the right. Score remains 10-2. Oilers up. Second quarter action, and Richardson gets the ball, and he barrels into the end zone. Mike Richardson, 18-yard touchdown run through the Bengal defense, and now we're at 17-2. Vince Carter finds Bob Trumpy near the goalpost. 9-yard touchdown pass, and that will make it 17-9. We're at the end of the first half. Carter hits Trumpy again, and he gets by the Oiler defense. And the Cincinnati, somebody lit a fire under them, and here we go. 17-16. We're now in the third quarter. Charlie Johnson back. He's under some pressure. He lofts that ball off to Alvin Reed, and he runs underneath it. Nice catch by Alvin Reed for 21 yards and a touchdown. 24-16 Oilers. Until in the fourth quarter, Paul Robinson runs off left tackle for 6 yards and gives Cincinnati a touchdown. 24-13 now. And Molman misses a long field goal attempt. Still 24-23 here in the fourth quarter. And that's going to be it. A stunner in the Astrodome. Houston ekes out a 1-point victory over the Cincinnati Bengals, who almost came back to win this one. Just came up an inch short. 24-23 is your victory, your score for this game. Ken Houston, your MVP. He had that interception return for a touchdown. Also made 7 tackles. Here's your final game stats. Let's look at Cincinnati here in their loss. That's a heartbreaking loss to the Oilers. Virgil Carter, 13-29, 163, 2 touchdowns and interception. Not a bad day. Jess Phillips had a big day, as did Paul Robinson running the ball against the Oilers. 94 yards for Phillips, 74 for Robinson, who got a touchdown. Through the air, Chip Myers led in yardage. But Lamb, let's see here, Trumpy, only 35 yards, but he got the 2 touchdown catches. Total offense for Cincinnati and a tough loss in the Astrodome against the Oilers. Cincinnati's defense, Beaucamp, 9 tackles, led the way. Mike Reed, he got a sack. Fletcher Smith with the interception. Of course, Molman, he missed 2 of his field goals. Boy, if he just would have hit one, that would have made all the difference in the game. So, hate to say it, go to the game would go to Horst Molman. David Lewis only had to punt 3 times today. He had 2 inside the 20. Lamar Parrish and Paul Robinson returning kicks. Parrish had a 31-yard return. Robinson 26. 9 yards today for Lamar Parrish returning punts for the Bengals in their loss to the Oilers. Charlie Johnson, 13-22, 198 yards, a touchdown and interception, and that's kind of a workman-like day for the veteran. Joe Dawkins and Mike Richardson. Richardson with 50 yards rushing. Joe Dawkins 44. Richardson with the 18-yard touchdown run. The aerial attack for Houston in their victory. Alvin Reed, 95 yards and a touchdown. Charlie Joyner got 45. Total offense for the 1-point victory over the Bengals by the Houston Oilers. Houston's defense, George Webster, big day for him, 9 tackles. No sacks. Ken Houston had that interception run back for a touchdown. That was a big one that just absolutely destroyed a scoring drive for the Bengals. Roy Jarella was good as usual. Spike Jones, he only punted 3 times today and put 2 of those inside the 20. Jerry Levias had a 26-yard kick return. And Levias and Richardson, their punt return numbers in the narrow victory over the Bengals today. So just looking here, I'm going to look at the play-by-play because I want to kind of figure out what that interception distance was. So let's take a look at that before we move on. Well, let's try to find it here. Where is that kick return? Oh, we'll find it. It's got to be here someplace. It was kind of a neat play. I just am interested in seeing what the yardage was on that. Huh. Come on. Looking for that score. If I don't find it here, I'm just going to move on. But it would just kind of interesting seeing how long that interception was. Just interested in that. Okay. Well, I'll look at it and see what I can find, and we'll let you know in our next highlight. So we now move on to Detroit playing the Rams in LA in almost, well, perfect conditions there. Mild winds, 67 degrees and sunny, like it always is in Southern California, it seems. So let's go to the highlights. And 9:08 in the first, Gabriel hands off to Willie Ellison, and he is stuffed. And Mike Lucia picks up the fumble and runs it back to the 25. That's a disappointing end to that drive. 3 seconds left in the first quarter, and Greg Landry is looking downfield, and Clancy Williams just picks that one off. We're now in the second. It's no score. Roman Gabriel, he's back to pass. He hits Studstill, and he is off and running, and we have a touchdown, Los Angeles. LA, Pat Studstill, 44-yard pass from Roman Gabriel, and Los Angeles is up 7-0. Errol Mann in the second quarter, he misses that one wide right. 2:34 in the second quarter, 7-0 LA. Gabriel has the Rams close, and he finds Wendell Tucker. Touchdown Rams, and the Rams are up right now 14-0. So we're now in the third. David Ray, he misses another field goal. Tough year on the field goals for the Rams kicker. 14-19 in the fourth. Landry has the Lions close, and we have a touchdown. Lions have scored with 14-19 in the fourth quarter. 14-7 Los Angeles. David Ray lining up another field goal. This one he gets through. That will extend the Los Angeles lead now by 10. Errol Mann, late in the fourth, he's going to try a field goal. He lofts this one up and misses it over the left up right. And last gasp, it looks like, for Detroit here. Landry zings the ball downfield, and it is picked off by Midor. And he runs it back to what looks like the 12-yard line. And that is a back-breaking interception. So Los Angeles gets a 17-7 victory over the Detroit Lions. So Roman Gabriel gets the MVP. And got to say, Los Angeles controlled the game. Greg Landry today, 9-17. He did break the 100-yard plane in passing yards. It's been a while since he's done that. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Melfar and Alty Taylor, not much on the ground against the fearsome foursome. Charlie Sanders, good day for the tight end. 56 yards. Looking at Detroit's total offense numbers and their loss to LA. On defense, Mike Lucie, he had 12 tackles and a sack and a fumble recovery that he ran back for a little ways. He had the only sack on the day, no interceptions, and he recovered the only fumble that Detroit got a hold of. Errol Mann unfortunately missed 2 field goals. Herman Weaver, only 4 punts on the day for him. On kick returners, Williams and Eddy, 29 and 24 yards were their longest return on kicks. Fair catch for the Lions on punt returns. And here we go to LA in your MVP Roman Gabriel. Nice day for Roman Gabriel, 18-30. 253 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did not turn the ball over. Was only sacked once, so the Rams line protected him against the Lions rush. Willie Ellison and Les Josephson, they both got 40 yards. Josephson 43, Ellison 40 in rushing. Jack Snow again topping the receiving stats for Los Angeles, 77 yards for him. Pat Studstill, 69 yards. He had a touchdown. Wendell Tucker, 31 yards and a touchdown. Total offense for the Rams in their victory over the Lions. Looking at defense, Myron Patios, he, again, 10 tackles. Good game for the middle linebacker of the Rams. Dyron Talbert, Merlin Olsen, and Jack Pardee, and Deacon Jones all had sacks. So 3 of the 4 who make up the fearsome foursome had sacks today. Meador and Clancy Williams had the interceptions. David Ray, again, struggling on field goals. Pat Studstill, 3 punts. Alvin, the kick and punt return team of Heyman and Alexander, no kick returns for them today. And not much on the punt returns, but LA, regardless, came out with the win. 17-7 over the Lions in the Coliseum. Now we move on to an AFL or an AFC/AFL matchup. The Jets, losers of 2 against Miami, winners of 5 in a row. And they are playing in the Orange Bowl. Jim Turner here in the first quarter, 8 minutes and 34 seconds in, he's going to try a field goal and he misses that one. Score remains 0-0 in the Orange Bowl. Start of the second quarter, and Al Woodall Hands off to Emerson Boozer, and the veteran running back is in the end zone for a touchdown to give New York the lead. They score first, 7-0 New York. We're now in the third. Bob Greasy back to pass, and Larry Grantham, the original Jet, picks off Bob Greasy at the Miami 43. We're in the third. Al Woodall finds Don Maynard in the end zone, and Maynard gets a touchdown reception, 11 yards, Woodall to Maynard. 14-0 Jets. Well, let's make that 17-0 Jets with Jim Turner's 25-yard field goal. We're now in the fourth quarter. Woodall hands off to George Knock, and he is hit and fumbles the ball. I think Manny Fernandez was in that pile and recovered. Miami looking to score here in the fourth, and Howard Twilley catches the greasy pass. Touchdown Dolphins. Extra point is good. Greasy with 3 seconds left. This is just for pride. And he just misses Paul Warfield. The Dolphins take a loss at home to the New York Jets, 17-7. Mark Lomas, he is your MVP. He was causing all sorts of problems for the Miami offensive line. 7 tackles, 5 for loss, and 2 sacks. Not much happening for Miami today. Al Woodall's number, 17-27, 246 yards, 1 touchdown. He did not turn the ball over in the air. Good day for Al Woodall. Looking at New York's rushing, George Knock, 46 yards, but he did fumble the ball away to Miami. Emerson Boozer, 25 yards and a touchdown. Big day for Don Maynard, 114 yards and touchdown. George Sauer, 86 yards. Total offense for the Jets in their victory over the Miami Dolphins in the Orange Bowl. Jets defense came up big today. Al Atkinson, 9 tackles. Mark Lomas, your MVP, 2 sacks. Larry Grantham intercepted a greasy pass. Jim Turner, he did miss a field goal, but otherwise he was as reliable as usual. Steve O'Neill, 8 punts. Battle and Cliff McLean. Kick returns, 16-yard return for Battle. Battle and Eddie Bell, punt returns today against Miami. In a disappointing loss at home for Miami, Bob Greasy, 16-33, 135 yards, a touchdown and an interception, sacked twice. Miami's running game just could not get into gear. Larry Zonka, 46 yards. Jim Kick, only 14. Willie Richardson had a big day for the Dolphins. A big day for him, 53 yards. Otherwise, Miami just could not get their offense in gear. Total offense for Miami in their loss to the Jets. Miami's defense, they put up a valiant effort in a losing cause. 12 tackles for Bonacani. They did not get any pressure on the Jets quarterback. Manny Fernandez, again, as I called it, he got that fumble from George Knock. Your Premian, he only had an extra point attempt, which was good. Larry Seipel was busy with 10 punts today. He had a long one of 61 yards. He parked all but 9 of his punts inside the 20, and 4 of those were fair caught. Mercury Morris had a 28-yard kick return. Jake Scott today, he was pretty much the man. 2 returns. The longest one was 9 yards, and then he had 3 fair catches. So the Jets come up with a gutsy win in Miami, 17-7. Now we move on to Tulane Stadium, just west of Florida, where New Orleans is hosting San Francisco, losers of 3. And it's raining. 3 minutes in, and Brody's back to pass. He's got him on the doorstep in Windsor. Bob Windsor, the tight end, catches a 4-yard touchdown pass from Brody, and that will put the Niners up 7-0. Bruce Gossett is going to try a kick in these conditions. Let's see if he makes it. And he does. 36-yard attempt in the rain and slop in Tulane Stadium right now. We're now in the 3rd quarter, and Brody pitches off to Doug Cunningham, and he runs that in for a touchdown. 16-0 until Billy Kilmer, quarterback, sneaks it up the middle for 3 yards to get New Orleans on the board. 16-7 San Francisco. Here we are in the 4th, and Gene Washington grabs a John Brody pass. Touchdown 49ers. 23-7 here in the 4th. Billy Kilmer, he's looking downfield, see if he can get the Saints a score. And he gets Shaw. Shaw goes out of bounds. 29-yard connection, Bob Shaw and Billy Kilmer. That gets the Saints down near the end zone. Kilmer looking, he rolls out, and he finds Kenny Burrow in the corner of the end zone. Touchdown, New Orleans. 23-14 with 1:28 left in the game, and Kilmer, he's slinging it. He hits Al Dodd, and Dodd gets the first down. Does not get out of bounds, so New Orleans is going to have to use a timeout. And New Orleans is going to have to settle for a field goal here late in the game. And they miss. Well, that looks like that will be a wrap. 23-14 ends up to be the final score in this game in Tulane Stadium. A 23-14 victory. Niners over the Saints. John Brody is your MVP. Nice day for John Brody. And for the most part, it was all San Francisco. John Brody's day, 24-36, 256 yards and 2 touchdowns. Good day for John Brody. Gets the 49ers back in the win column. Looking at the San Francisco rushing game, Ken Willard, 42 yards for him. Doug Cunningham had the rushing touchdown. Gene Washington, big day in the air for him, 108 yards and a touchdown. Bob Windsor, he grabbed a 4-yard touchdown pass. Total offense for the San Francisco 49ers in their victory in Tulane Stadium over the New Orleans Saints. On defense, Frank Nunley, 6 tackles and a sack. Skip Vanderbunt, 6 tackles. Roland Lakes, he got a sack. So did Tommy Hart. Bruce Gossett, he missed an extra point, but it was fairly sloppy conditions there. Steve Spurrier is line punting today for the 49ers. Bill Tucker and Bruce Taylor returning kicks. Taylor and Fuller returning punts. Looking at New Orleans, Billy Kilmer, 22 of 38, 251 yards, a touchdown in a losing effort to the 49ers. And Tom Barrington, 36 yards on the ground was the best they could muster in New Orleans as a rushing attack. Billy Kilmer sneaked in a touchdown there, a 3-yarder. Al Dodd, big day, 101 yards for him. Ken Burrow had a single reception for a yard and a touchdown. Looking at New Orleans' total offense numbers in their loss to the 49ers. Looking at defense, Hugo Hollis, 13 tackles. Otherwise, no sacks, no interceptions by the Saints defense. Tom Dempsey missed a field goal. Again, the conditions were not favorable probably for footing for the kickers. Julian Fagan, 7 punts, put 4 inside the 20, 2 were touchbacks, 2 fair catch. Ken Burrow and Al Dodd doing kick returns. Dodd and Dickie Lyons punt return numbers today in the loss to the 49ers. So the Niners pick up a victory, 23-14. Now we're at Kansas City and Oakland. Nice weather in the Coliseum, so let's see what happened in this game. 11:28 in the first. Len Dawson under center for the Chiefs. He's back to pass and he's looking. He finds his towering tight end Morris Stroud, who just reaches up and grabs that pass and takes it in for the touchdown. 36-yard catch and run by Morris Stroud. Kansas City's up 7-0. Darryl LaMonica, he's looking downfield and he is picked off. Jim Kearney picks off Darryl LaMonica. Still in the first. We have a Blanda field goal attempt that goes wide right. Score remains at the near the end of the first quarter, 7-0 Kansas City. We're in the second quarter now, and Len Dawson has the Chiefs driving, and Ed Podolak runs that one in for an 8-yard touchdown. Kansas City is up 14-0 here in the third. Blanda is going to try a field goal, try to get Oakland on the board, and no good. .607 in the third. Another Blanda field goal attempt. This one's a long one for him, and he misses that one too. 14-0 Kansas City. We're in the fourth quarter now. George Blanda trying another field goal attempt in this one, and he misses that one. He's missed 3 field goals today. Bad day for George Blanda. 4:55 in the fourth. LaMonica, he's going to try to run for the first and get out of bounds, and he does. Converts that 4th down. And we're still in the fourth here. 3:55. LaMonica, he has a receiver, and he's in the end zone. Bowie in for 20 yards. LaMonica, touchdown pass. 14-7 is your score with just under 2 minutes left, and LaMonica misses Warren Wells. Last second. Oh, and Sherman. Rod Sherman catches a touchdown with 10 seconds left in the game to tie the score. 5 seconds left. Lenny Dawson looking for some magic. He's looking, he's got good protection. He lets it fly. And misses Otis Taylor. Wow, Oakland came from behind there to tie it up. 14-14 tie. LaMonica is your MVP. Here's your game stats. And again, just a reminder, in 1970, during the regular season, there was no overtime. So they played through regulation, and whatever the score was at the end of regulation, it was win, lose, or tie. You don't get sudden death overtime until the postseason, and then the NFL has overtime in regular season games starting in 1974. Looking at the Kansas City line, 11 of 26 from Len Dawson, 135 yards and a touchdown. Ed Podolak had 75 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Frank Pitts, 57 yards. Morris Stroud, 36 yards and a touchdown. Total offense for Kansas City, and their tie with the Oakland Raiders. On defense, Willie Lanier comes up big, 10 tackles, 9 by Bobby Bell. Aaron Brown and Buck Buchanan sacked LaMonica, and Jim Kearney got the interception. Jan Stenerud hit both extra points. Gerald Wilson, another solid day punting, a 57-yarder, but he was a busy guy. 12 punts for him today. On kick returns, Holmes and Podolak. Punt returns, Podolak and Willie Mitchell. Now let's look at Oakland. LaMonica, his numbers 21 of 44, 292, 2 touchdowns and interception. Dixon with 55 yards on the ground. Lee with 102 yards and a touchdown. Big day for him. Warren Wells, 66 yards. Bolitnikoff, 55 yards. And then Rod Sherman, he had a touchdown as well. Total offense for the Raiders in a tie. Raider defense, Gus Otto had 12 tackles and a sack. Tony Klein, he got another sack. Blanda, he missed 4 field goals. What a difference even one of those would have made. Just a hard day for the veteran. Aishai, he punted 6 times today. Got 4 inside the 20. Atkinson and Wyatt returning punts. Atkinson, he was busy today. 32 yards was his longest kick return. And on punt returns, Wyatt and Sherman. Alvin Wyatt had a 55-yard punt return. And there is your final score, a 14-14 tie, Chiefs and Raiders. We're now down to our last 2 games of Week 13. New York is playing St. Louis. New York coming on strong here, winners of 5 straight, and St. Louis, their last game, they ended up being on the wrong end of that. 6:52 in the first, and we have Jim Bakken trying a field goal. And that one goes wide left. No good. We're in the second quarter now, and Jim Hart hands off to Sid Edwards, and he slices through for a 3-yard touchdown run. And that will put St. Louis up, first score of the game, 7-0 Cardinals. Sid Edwards again turns the corner, gets the 4th and short. That'll keep the drive going. Hart, he will scramble through and get the touchdown. Extra point is good, 14-0 St. Louis. Tarkington back to pass, and he hits Don Herman, and he is off to the races. Looks like he got by Roger Worley. 38-yard connection, Tarkington to Herman. And that'll get New York on the board. We're now in the third. Jim Hart looking. He locks that one, and it is incomplete. Spider Lockhart had Fred Hyatt pretty much covered. We're now still in the fourth. MacArthur Lane will get the pitch, and he turns the corner. Touchdown, Cardinals. 6:22 in the fourth. 21-7 Cardinals. And Pete Gogolak goes wide left with a 26-yard attempt. Late in the fourth, Fran Tarkington, he's looking downfield, and he hits the veteran Larry Wilson, and wrong guy. St. Louis has the interception at the 40. With a minute left in the game, Tarkington back, looking downfield again. Finds Clifton McNeil, who has a nice reception for 20 yards and gets out of bounds. Tarkington with 38 seconds left. He's looking down into the end zone, and he decides he's going to run. And Fran runs it in, 9-yard scramble for a touchdown with 38 seconds left in the fourth. 21-14 St. Louis. And that will be your final score. St. Louis gets back into their winning ways. 21-14 and snaps the Giants win streak. Jim Hart is your MVP. And a very dominating game by the St. Louis Cardinals. Looking at the Giants, Fran Tarkington's day, 21-34, 232 yards, a touchdown, and interception. The running game today was pretty much the Ron Johnson and Fran Tarkington show. Johnson with 42 yards, Tarkington with 26 and a touchdown. Don Herman, 80 yards receiving. Clifton McNeil, he had 76 yards, but the lone receiving touchdown went to Don Herman. Total offense for New York in a losing effort against the Cardinals. On defense, John Douglas, 10 tackles. Kanicki and Fred Dreyer with sacks. Gogolak missed extra point. Billy Johnson's punting day. And Les Shy, he was doing the kick return duties today. 32 yards was his longest kick return. And not much in the punting game for the Giants. Looking at your MVP, Cardinal quarterback Jim Hart, 20-37, 259 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. MacArthur Lane led the way with 62 yards rushing and a touchdown. Sid Edwards, 34 yards and a touchdown. And Jim Hart, he had 14 yards and a touchdown. And all of the scoring was done on the ground, even though John Gilliam had 105 yards of receiving. Jackie Smith had 64, but no one got into the end zone. Total offense for the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals defense, Larry Stallings, 8 tackles. Chuck Walker got 2 sacks today on Tarkington. Bob Rao, he got 1. Larry Wilson, the veteran, he got in there and grabbed a Tarkington pass for an interception. Jim Bakken, uncharacteristically, he missed a field goal. La Tourette, his punting line for the day. And La Tourette and Pittman, nothing to show for the kick return game for the Cardinals. And 5 yards for Chuck LaTourette, returning punts, 3 fair catches. So the Cardinals get a 21-14 victory over the Giants in Busch Stadium. Our last game, Eagles at Redskins. Rainy day in RFK with strong winds and a little chilly at 46 degrees. Both teams are on a losing streak. One of these two are gonna get back in the win column. Which one will it be? Well, 10:43 in the first. Jurgensen has him on the 12, and we have a touchdown reception. Jerry Smith, the tight end, grabs that Jurgensen pass. Touchdown, Washington. Still in the first quarter. Kurt Knight, he boots that one through in the rain. That'll give Washington a 10-0 lead. We're in the second quarter now, and Knight standing on the infield. Footing is still good there for him, and he gets a 22-yard field goal. 13-0. Second quarter, Washington up. Washington again. And it looks like Larry Brown, late in the second quarter, is going to get in for a touchdown. Washington is putting it to the Eagles, 20-0. And near the end of the first half, Snead pitches to Wuchnick, and he beats everyone into the corner of the end zone. 8-yard run for Tom Wuchnick, and that will get Philadelphia on the board. Waning seconds of the first half, and Kurt Knight misses that one. I think the footing out there is starting to get a little dodgy. We're in the third now. Another Knight field goal. This time he's on the grass. That might help, and it does. 41-yard attempt is good, and that will put Washington up 23-7. Still in the third, Snead looking at, and he is sacked and fumbled the ball. Washington recovers at the 36. We're still in the third, near the end of the third quarter, and Knight will miss that one. That looks like it got blown off course a little bit. Now we're in the fourth. Score is unchanged. And Sonny Jurgensen fools everybody and gets a touchdown. Oh. Sonny Jurgensen makes his way into the end zone on a 36-yard run. Well, the Eagles will get in the end zone here with 9:28 in the fourth. Ben Hawkins gets a 8-yard reception for a touchdown. And Sonny Jurgensen's picked off, and he's chasing Young, and he catches him. Boy, Sonny Jurgensen is showing he's got some legs today. Adrian Young gets tackled from behind by Sonny Jurgensen. Last gasp for the Eagles. Snead back to pass, and there it goes. And incomplete, gone. And I think that will be your game. Washington gets a big victory at home, 30-14. Larry Brown is your MVP. Big day for the Washington halfback, 170 yards and a touchdown. I still cannot get over Sonny Jurgensen, the old quarterback with his pot belly, stumbling and fumbling and bumbling his way into the end zone on that sneak. That totally surprised the Eagles defense. I think it surprised everybody in RFK to see that. And dominating win by the Washington Redskins. Norm Snead, his numbers on the day for Philadelphia, 20-34, 165 yards, 1 touchdown. So a good day for Snead. Cyril Pinder and Tom Wichnick, both of them had fairly decent days. 43 yards for Pinder. Wichnick had the 1 touchdown run. Looking at Philadelphia receiving, Ben Hawkins, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Harold Jackson, 46 yards. Total offense for Philly in their loss today to the Washington Redskins. Philly's defense, Rostovich again leading the way with 15 tackles. Mel Tom and Ernie Callaway with sacks. Adrian Young with that interception where he was looked like he was going to run that in for the touchdown, and Sonny Jurgensen chases him down and tackles him. Mark Mosley, only extra points today, and he was good on both tries. Bill Bradley, 7 punts. Wallach and Nelson doing kick return for the Eagles in their loss to the Redskins. Wallach and Hawkins doing punt returns. Looking at Washington, 14-22 for Sonny Jurgensen, 203 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Decent day for Sonny. Larry Brown, 170 yards and a touchdown today. But look at that, 51 yards on the ground for Sonny Jurgensen. Of course, 36 of those on that touchdown run that literally everybody in RFK on both sides were absolutely shell-shocked to see Jurgensen rumbling out of the end zone for 36 yards and a touchdown. Charlie Taylor, big day for him, 155 yards for the Redskins veteran. Jerry Smith, he had the 1 touchdown reception. Total offense for the Redskins today in their win over the Eagles. On defense, Chris Hanberger, 8 tackles. Norm Snead was sacked by Harold McGlinton, John Hoffman, Floyd Peters, and Bruce Anderson. They made life difficult for Norm Snead today. Hoffman, he gobbled up a fumble. Kurt Knight, he missed 2 field goals at the end of the day. Didn't really matter. Washington had a comfortable lead. Mike Bragg, he only punted 3 times. Ricky Harris and Ted Vactor returning kicks. Each one returned a kick, 26 and 24 yards respectively. Ricky Harris, 1 return for 3 yards. Looks like his longest on punts. Well, that will be a wrap for Week 13. We have the last week of the season coming up. We can take a preview of that. So our Week 14, our final games of the 1970 replay. We have Minnesota and Atlanta, New York and Baltimore, Boston and the Bengals, the Battle of Texas, Houston and Dallas, Cleveland and Mile High against the Broncos. Green Bay will wrap up their season in Detroit. Buffalo will play Miami in the Orange Bowl. Chicago will get the 1-12 New Orleans Saints, losers of 10 straight. Los Angeles will travel to New York to play the Jets in a marquee game. San Francisco, they will play Oakland, the Battle of the Bay. Pittsburgh will play Philadelphia in the Battle of Pennsylvania. Kansas City will end up playing in San Diego. And the 10-3 St. Louis Cardinals will finish their season in Washington against the Redskins. Looking at your standings, St. Louis 10-3 with a commanding lead there. Minnesota also at 10-3. Los Angeles 10-2-1. And Baltimore gained some ground on Miami. They are 10-3. Pittsburgh looks to have the AFC Central wrapped up. And in the West, Oakland and Denver tied for first. Denver, winners of 4 in a row. Could this be the year Denver vaults themselves into the playoffs and overcomes Kansas City and Oakland? We will find out in Week 14. Well, that'll do it for Week 13. One more week to go of highlights, and then it is the playoffs and the postseason. I think with the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game, I was thinking I would sim those and do the highlights, and maybe we could watch the Super Bowl. So I wouldn't do highlights for the Super Bowl, but would just watch it with you guys as it all unfolds. Let me know what you think. If you'd rather see a Super Bowl highlight or the full game of the Super Bowl in the comments. Please like and subscribe. And thanks again for taking time to look at the Week 13 highlights of the 1970 NFL replay in Pro Strategy Football 2023.